Hey folks, it's Karen here from the Artisan Perfumery Mastermind. And today I wanted to introduce you to one of my amazing alumni, Helida Dodd. She's very kindly agreed to do an interview with me about her fragrance journey, about how she went from being a complete beginner to launching her own perfume brand. And I know that you'll find her story really, really inspiring. And so without further ado, let's chat to Helida.
Okay, hello everybody, and thank you so much, Helida, for coming on to talk to us today. What I really would love, first of all, is for you to introduce yourself, your business, and also where people can find you online.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Helida Dodd, and I have Marbella Perfumes. And you can find me on Instagram at Marbella Perfumes and on my website, www.marbellaperfumes.com.
And it is a very as we're recording this, it's quite a special week, isn't it? So can you just share a little bit about your brand and why this is a special week for you?
Absolutely. Well, it's been a little bit over a year since the launch of the first perfume ever present. So we are definitely celebrating and going all out. I have a special Zoom coming up, a Zoom party, because everybody's all over the world. And along this journey, I have realized how much of a link there is between science and art. My background is in industrial engineering. And I grew up thinking that I was very much a numbers person and I didn't have an artistic bone in my body. And along the way, along this course, I realized not just the link that there exists between science and art in perfume, because to my surprise, it's not even so much about science, but about math, all the math that is behind that formula. And I love it because numbers are beautiful to me. But I also learned how much I love to write, how much of a connection exists between numbers and letters, and also how much of a connection exists between art and being creative. Doesn't mean that when I draw things, I draw stick figures. That's okay. Now I can claim the creativity license, because I have found just so many beautiful links along the way that are so important for people to nurture, and not to keep us in that box of I'm an artist, or I'm a math person, or I'm a letters person. I think we are so much more than that. So to celebrate this week, I have invited a panel of very interesting people that are not necessarily perfumers, but use perfume in significant ways in the way that they do work. So I have a scientist, I have an engineer, and a writer coming onto my panel. And I also have some friends that are business owners that do use scent very much in the way they conduct their business and for their businesses. So it's going to be a fun hour. And
it sounds amazing. So that's on the 11th of October. Is it going to be online as well? So if people are watching this after the 11th, they can tune in?
It's going to be online, and all the information, it's in the Instagram and my bio. And if you're registered to my email list, you will also be getting information through there.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So my first question for you is, when did you think, oh, I want to learn to make perfume, or I want to make perfume? How did that process come about to you?
So I used to be an avid wearer of perfume until my first pregnancy. When I got pregnant with my first child, I had horrible morning sickness, and I stopped wearing perfumes for a while. And then I wanted to go back to wearing perfumes, and I would almost lost that love that I had, because I would wear perfume and it would immediately overwhelm me, or just I would get like 2 days in and I would just get bored. But I wanted to wear perfume again, so I would go shopping and I would just be like, okay, I'm going to find that perfume that I love. And this went on for like 12 years until until I went to London. I went to Fortnum and Mason, and we were there to have tea, which was delightful. But then I realized that they had that beauty floor that's pretty awesome too. And I went and I was telling the sales lady all my woes about perfume and how I wanted to find that special one again. And she says to me, well, you know, there are these pretty famous designers who formulate with natural materials. And I was like, really? And so she pointed me to some of them. And at my house, we like to make things from scratch, everything like food. We really like to create in this household. And I'm an engineer too. So I think just my background lends itself to that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, maybe I could make perfume. Maybe I could make my own. But I kind of so I came back to the United States and I actually found your book. And
so that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. So yeah, how did you find me? And what drew you to join me as opposed to any other?
Well, so the first thing was because I bought a few books and one of them was yours. And I really loved the way that you had written your book. And I love one of your lines that you say you don't need to be a chemist to be a perfumer, because I think that's the very first thing. Well, we all, before we do anything, I think in our heads, things are like really big, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the things that stops us from doing all those things that we dream up about doing. So I read your book and but I pedaled my feet too in that, oh, I'll do it someday. Yeah. But to be honest, I think being an engineer was almost sabotaging me a little bit, because I was thinking Chanel and robots and conveyor belts and a huge operation in order to do something like this. So it wasn't until like 3 years later that I went to Ireland and I kind of saw this in action in a very small perfumery that was beautiful. They had a garden, and in their garden they displayed all of their ingredients, and they were making huge waves all around the world. They had just won an award for best serum, and they had famous actresses. I mean, a tiny place. You really wanted to go there in order to find it. So you really needed to know where it was and just make a point to go. So when I saw that in action, it was so funny, because she said that day, she's giving us a perfume tour and just saying how much care and detail they take in everything that they do, which is right up my alley. And she says, and there's only 30 of us. And in my head, 30 sounded like nothing, because I had been thinking Chanel. I had been thinking robots.
So big. And I think that's one of the things that people really, it does put people off, because they think that if they're going to do this, they have to be like compete. In order to compete with those big brands, they have to be like them. And that is so not true.
Oh my gosh, that is the furthest from the truth. And it's one of the things that I want to touch up on actually at our Zoom celebration, just to provide that picture of what it's like to be that. There's that book that's called The Art of Possibility, or The Art of What's Possible. And that day, that perfumery was that possibility for me. I saw it so clearly. And I said to my husband, I was like, 30? That's nothing. And he looks at me and he's like, 30 is a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say it. It sounds like a lot to some people, but then if you take it in the context of a big brand like Chanel, or, you know, one of the massive, or Dior, then it's not a lot, right? So,
no.
But, you know, you can still do it with one person, two people. That's amazing. Wow. So when you first realized that you wanted to make perfume or start a fragrance business, can you just share some of the difficulties or challenges that you had that made you seek out a teacher to help you?
Oh, well, let me just say that I didn't start this I didn't even attempt this on my own, just like, oh, I'm going to YouTube or anything. I really wanted to, and this is really the truth. I really wanted to find the best teacher that I could find. And it was funny because I had no idea where to start. So how do you even know? If you're not in this world, you really don't know who's good and who's not, and who's just. So I remember just kind of in this conundrum, right, in my head, just thinking, okay, how do I find that teacher that I feel like, oh yeah, this is the person that I want to teach me. And I think I might have gone back through, and it's one of these things that just happens, right, without even thinking about it, like out of the blue. I went back to your book and I was like, I looked in the back and your website was there. So that's a good thing. Your website was there and I was like, oh, let me look her up. So I looked you up, I found your information and I found everything. And then I even asked, this is funny, you have no idea of all the background that's happened in my head, right?
No, of course not.
I have some friends that live in London and I was like, do you happen to know this teacher? Of course they didn't. They are not in this perfume world, right? But anyway, I picked you, and I have to say, from the bottom of my heart, it was the best decision that I could have made. I mean,
oh, thank you so much.
For sure.
And how long have you been with us now? I can't remember what year you joined. When did you join?
Yeah, I think I joined in 2018, and you asked me, this is a really good question for everybody who's starting. You asked me what are the biggest obstacles that I've encountered. I'm going to tell you that the biggest obstacle has been myself. It's that little voice that's like in your head telling you, you can't. Sometimes it's not even that it says you can't, but it's that cycle that you get in. And I remember when I was first starting, like everything seems like a mountain, right? Like, what kind of alcohol do I use? And I was a little shy to ask even like same questions or questions that people ask all the time. So I think we were in a live and I said something like, I'm so sorry to beat a dead horse, but what kind of alcohol do I need for this? And you're always so patient, and you answer the same question a million times, but
I know, but that's the part of being a teacher. We're getting new people into the program all the time, and so everybody asks the question. And
that's exactly and that's exactly the difference that you make, because you treat everyone as if you're very special and important, and I want you to learn. So it's not even you're not annoyed when everybody asks you the same thing. You treat it as if this is the first time you're answering it. So I appreciate that, because every time I've had a question, you're there answering, and just you're a wealth of information in all areas. I mean, and that's one of the things that I might have known a little bit before I signed on, but the longer I've been in your programs, because now I've taken other classes from you as well, I realize how much knowledge exists in you and your experience. And every time someone asks me, who's your teacher, I was like, my teacher has been in the entire loop of perfumery. I said naturals, aroma chemicals, safety, big houses, natural houses. So I really appreciate that, because it shows in the way you teach, it shows in your knowledge. And I love your approach in which you are very objective about things. I have changed the way I think, because when I first joined your class, I was thinking, I'm going to do a natural perfume because natural is better. And that's almost the first line that I say when I'm speaking to an audience. I do a natural perfume because it's my choice, because I want to do it like that, but not necessarily because it's better. So I want to debunk that myth.
Yeah, that's so important. And I love that you touched on the objectivity thing. I think that's one of the things that we don't see so much of in the industry. And for those people watching, you might even have some of these beliefs yourself, in the I want to do natural perfumery because there are no chemicals in it and it's better for you, and I'm allergic to everything. And actually the truth, sadly, naturals are like my first love, but sadly, like, those things are not necessarily true in every case. And obviously, not obviously, but natural materials have so many naturally occurring chemicals. They're the highest in allergens, as you probably found out during the program. And actually, it's really hard to make a non-allergenic fragrance with just naturals, because they're chock full of them. Whereas with synthetics, they perform different functions, I think, and they can be just as beautiful, and they can be just as safe, and if not more so in some situations. And I think I always, and in the program, in every course that I teach, I kind of walk that line. It's like, it's your choice. And what we see is brainwashing or greenwashing on the one side, and then on the other side, you've got the big fragrance industry that actually used to say naturals, you can't make a perfume with just naturals. But actually, because there's such a demand, we're seeing a lot of big fragrance houses actually formulating with naturals and investing in natural growers. So I don't think it's a bad thing that the people who have really been pushing the naturals. I mean, as you say, I've been in both sides of the industry, working for IFF, big chemical company, fragrance house, and then Neal's Yard, organic, like essential oil pioneers. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that that came across. And I think one of the things that I wanted to say to you, there are, so many people take programs and just watch the videos, don't really watch all of them, or they maybe don't really do the work and put the effort in. And I think the key to any training, like, I could be the best teacher in the world, but if somebody doesn't do the work, then they're not going to get the result. And I think one of the things that really stood out for me about you is that you showed up to all the lives. You're always in the group. You're always asking questions. You were just asking as many, utilizing that facility, because obviously we've got the Facebook group, which is where you get my one-to-one help. And, it might seem like just a Facebook group, but it's pretty humongous now in terms of the resources that are there as well. But yeah, some people just don't show up to the lives and don't ask the questions and get stuck. But you, every single time, you did. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you really got this in a fairly short space of time, because you weren't, or you got over the shyness of asking the questions, right?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not shy anymore. But I have to definitely reiterate that. And I think that's one of the stopping blocks, because it is daunting sometimes. I remember just so clearly when I was going to mix my first accord, and I was like, but how do you mix? And that you almost don't even do it. I know that it took me a couple of weeks, even just to get over that courage, right? Because you want that to be good. You don't want it to be bad. And that's where you come in, because you are that voice, that it's that encouraging voice for your students, that I don't know if you probably already, it's probably comes natural to you, because I'm sure you can sense that apprehension in that newbie, right?
For sure. And going back to what you said about mindset, like, I see my job in being a teacher and running these programs is that actually people come in thinking, I want to learn how to make perfume. And actually me teaching like the structure and the process and, like how all the nuts and bolts work together is a fairly simple thing to do, but actually helping people get out of their own way with their mindset is actually 80% of the job, honestly, because I see it so much. And the reason that I see it is because we all have it within us, whether we're, when we're starting out with something new, and even like taking myself back to when I was really first starting out, and even when I, like 5, 6, 7 years in, we still have that little voice. And for those of you who think that, the more you do and the more you put out there in the world, the imposter syndrome or the perfectionism, all of that goes away on its own when you have a success. It doesn't. You have to actively work on that. And sometimes, you just have to manage it within yourself.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I've seen it so much, and it's the biggest thing that stops people making the decision to do what they really want to do and they really love, because of that fear of, oh, who am I to do this? What will people say? And what will people think? Will people like my stuff? Will they think it's terrible?
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, so everybody has those challenges.
But then and that's, I think that's the difference. That's when you come in and I remember I said that gentle, and you probably, it's kind of funny. I mean, imagine you probably just said something to me that you had no idea how impactful it was going to be. But I remember that fear of not even mixing, because I didn't want it to be bad. I wanted it to just be good. But the way you say it, you have that gentle nudge, like, just Ellie, just do it, just go mess it up. And I think
Absolutely, it's so
just
important.
hearing that, yeah, just hearing that, just do it. It's not gonna be good the first time. It's like trial and error. I mean, all of that just gently nudges, and in such a kind way. And like I said, I know that it's probably innate to you already, and you know that's exactly sorry,
That's okay.
what we're all going through, right? We just wanted to, that's really what stops us in a lot of ways, not 100%, in a lot of ways. And maybe a lot of the times that's where the half done projects end.
Right. So yeah,
That's
so
where
people
the projects end.
start and then put stuff on the shelf, and
Yeah.
they think, oh, it's going to be bad. And I just want to say for everybody watching here as well that, and I've said this before, but I want to reiterate it. Perfumery is like, it is, yes, you can be familiar, super familiar with your materials. You can have had successes in the past, but every time you start a new project, to a degree, you are starting from scratch, because even perfumers with decades of experience do multiple trials and multiple modifications before they put their fragrances out to the market. I know that. I've seen it, working in the industry. It's trial after trial after trial. And, the big perfume houses, they have like robots mixing stuff, and then they have computer programs, and they've got formulations that have been on file that they can work with. They run GCMS reports to discover what other perfumers' fragrances are composed of. And as small, independent artisan perfumers, we don't have all of those things. So also keep that in mind as well. It's a very hands-on, and that's why I call it artisan perfumery, because it's very hands-on. And so tell us, so with your business, so you're doing everything yourself, right?
I'm doing everything, absolutely everything. And it kind of makes me, sometimes it makes me go back to that moment when I said I can do the work of 30, like no big deal. And I'm like, yeah, 30 is a lot and I'm doing it all. But, and I think it's okay when you first start out, because you get to not only appreciate what goes into every step of the way, but then, you get to find out other things that you love. And like you said, like I told you, I have realized that I have always been a writer, except that I never gave myself credit for that, and how much now I enjoy doing it, and what a connection that is to my clients and to anybody, and what a platform this is, to be honest.
It's amazing that we can just put our stuff out there and reach hundreds, if not thousands of people, even as pretty small, individuals.
Absolutely. And just the more I do this, the more I realize that perfume is almost, it's a platform that helps reach so many people, and that you almost have this great luxury to inspire people, like you do. I mean, you have this platform, you have these students that you're not really only teaching them how to do perfume, because I gotta tell you that since I started in this journey, I always used to say that years give you wisdom. And I gotta tell you that I think being an entrepreneur, that's where the wisdom is. And you couldn't really do that if you don't launch into things. But it's the way I've gotten to know myself. I've gotten to know really those fears that are almost paralyzing sometimes. You get to know what propels you forward. I think most importantly, what stops you. And if you make it a point to be aware, then you realize all of those things. And of course, then that's how you walk. It's just like a one foot in front of the other, right? But this has been, I mean, like I said, I think it puts us in such a position to inspire other people to really go after the dreams that they have. Those little voices that are, that are in their heads all the time.
That's amazing. And I was going to ask you actually that how would you say launching your own perfumery business has impacted your life? But I think you've shared quite a lot of it there. But is there anything else that you would add to that?
I mean, honestly, I think that's just it. It's been a tremendous growth personally. And it's just been challenge after challenge, and not in a bad way necessarily, but I think also appreciating a lot of the little things that sometimes go unnoticed.
Yeah, a lot of things. Yeah, that's so true. There was something that just popped into my head that I was going to ask you, and it's now dropped out of my brain. Was it around, we talked about the mindset stuff?
Actually, I want to say something too in
Yeah, of
regards
course,
to
yeah.
that. Yeah, because it's funny how we set out to do something. We think we're setting out to do something, right? And sometimes it's frustrating when you don't see the results that you want right away, which is a huge lesson in itself, because then you backpedal a little bit. It's very introspective, right? Like, why do I need to just do this sprint right away, and why can't I? So this whole process is very introspective, and that's a big, huge part of launching a perfume and how it's changed me. But the beautiful thing about this is that when you allow yourself to actually go one step in front of the other and be able to see the twists and turns of this road, you're going to be so surprised at what's unfolding, because it's things that you don't even dream about. So I always say that the dream is even better than I first thought about, because it leads you to where your heart really is. So all of these things are leading me in directions, in ways in which I always loved. I just didn't know how to get there.
Yeah,
and just
it's opened a lot of, would you say it's opened a lot of doors for you?
Yeah, and just even things that I wasn't even thinking about, things that I've always loved, doing, speaking to audiences and things like that, how I can now use this to do something that I really love as well. So it's a parallel. It goes hand in hand with making perfume.
Yeah, and so I did remember the thing that I was going to say briefly, and it kind of ties into what you just said, that I think sometimes people think, oh, making perfume, it's just this frivolous thing, and it's just a scent, or it's just a product on a shelf. But it's so much more than that. And as you probably know, my passion is helping people to understand like how to use their sense of smell and scent for health, wellness benefits as well, for mental health, for anxiety, for just making you feel good. And I was sort of thinking of it from that aspect, but what you just said is just, there is so much more to it as well. And I think sometimes people think, oh, maybe I want to make a perfume, and then they just think of it in this really small way of, oh, I'm going to make this thing that just sits on a shelf and people buy it because they like the smell of it. But that is so
I really thank you so much for sharing that, because that's one of the things that I really try to get across. And I really hope that people understand that, you know, it opens, so like having, you know, what a perfume out there. For me, initially it was my book, right? So I wrote the book, and that opened so many doors and so many avenues for me. And I've done all sorts of things. Like I've done corporate stuff for whiskey companies, and ended up like at the restaurant show doing demonstrations and smell things for a chicken stock company, like weird and wacky things that you wouldn't even imagine. It's like, how would perfumery like lead into those things? But people find this business and this industry so fascinating, and so people are attracted to that. And if people find, as soon as people find out that you're a fragrance expert or you're a perfumer or you've got a perfume out, people are drawn to you and they want to talk to you about that.
You know what I always say? I always like to say in my presentations, it goes beyond a pretty scent, because it goes so well beyond just a pretty scent. Of course, for me, it's also super interesting, the science and the brain and the connection to scent. And my engineering background kind of lends itself to that sort of research, which I think it's so important for people. So every time, yesterday I had a live event, and it's one of the highlights of my presentation, just that connection of our brain to scent and how we can use it, right? It's such a powerful tool. People have no idea. And I love that. I think it's fascinating. And I think it's my responsibility to tell people, because the average consumer doesn't realize. The average consumer just goes to buy something on the shelf, but they have no idea the power behind their sense of smell. And to me, that is just one of the best things that I found out in this journey.
I'm so glad that you're using that in your presentations for your fragrance. And okay, so finally, I could talk to you for hours, but we don't have that much time, because I don't think a 3-hour interview, but maybe we'll do another one at some point. And when I finally start my podcast, I would definitely love to have you on that. But finally, one of the things, so have you your fragrance brand, it's launched a year ago, and the fragrance that you have is called Ever Present.
Yes.
And so you launched with one fragrance.
Yes.
And that is the singular fragrance that you have right now. You have one fragrance.
I do. And I have to tell you that I haven't even been in a rush. I have other things in the works, but I think it was wise to do it for me. It was wise to do it that way.
Yeah. And the reason that I mention that is because people feel often that they have to have like 3 fragrances or a whole line to launch. And I've seen another one of my past alumni, she did the same thing, Katrina, she launched with just one fragrance. And then that you build on that, and you like, people think that you have to have a whole bunch of stuff, and you so don't. Can you just like speak to that a little bit, and how you found the process of having, so you're a year old, so for the last year you've just had one fragrance out there, and have there been any challenges with that, or has it's worked out fine for you?
So sometimes a question is in my head, right? Especially because I do a lot of e-commerce, so I'm wondering what it would be like if I had more options. But I do have to tell you that again, I think maybe my engineering background comes into play here, because inventory, it's a huge source of study in my career. And I can tell you that the logistics, the inventory are enough to just not even get you off of the starting line. So I think as a new, unless it depends on how much you want to invest, and how do you want to go with a lot and just invest a lot, or do you want to go a little slowly? I think it was good. It was great, because it makes me know my clients. It makes me know my line, know where I want to lead it. And I have one, it's much more manageable to have many moving. I mean, one thing, it's making the perfume. the other thing, it's all of the components that go into packaging this, and forget even the marketing, right, of the perfume,
right.
but just the packaging, every component, how you source things, where they come from, how you put them together, keeping inventory. That is very straightforward. And I think for a person who's starting, I would say go ahead and start with one if you want to. There's nothing stopping you. I don't think it has been a hindrance. I think it's been great. It was a great launch. It was very well received. It continues to get a lot of press. So it has not stopped me in any way. I think from achieving that success that a product, would want.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And thank you for sharing that. Because I do think that is something that stops people and feeling like they have to have it all their ducks in a row and have this whole line before they launch. And actually that point that you made about it's almost been like launching that one product and not then introducing a next one and a next one and a next one has allowed you. Don't worry.
I'm so sorry. My phone is always off, by the way.
That's okay.
So that you can edit.
That's fine. That has allowed you to really understand your customers.
Absolutely. You really get to know, also not just understand them, but then where do you want your line to go? How do you want? So actually,
you might not even realize. You might have this vision when you start out, and think that it's going to go a certain way. But actually your customers might tell you something different. And have they told you something? How did you think that your line was going to go, and how do you think it is going to go now that you've got this customer base? So is it different, or did you get it right from the start?
I think I got it. And it's kind of funny that things that have come up that I didn't think about, actually. I wasn't thinking about the spouses. I was thinking about the wearer. So I have gotten great compliments, like they're so funny. Like they say something like, my spouse always runs away from me when I have perfume, but with yours, I can't keep them off of me. They're like, what are you wearing?
That's an amazing testimonial. Doesn't everyone want that?
So that was a funny one that I mean, there's been like 2 or 3 of those. One of them said something like, well, he continues to chase me around. That's been one of them. Another one was like, oh, I wanted to pamper myself tonight. I took a bath, I put your perfume on, and I just wanted to get in bed with a book. And my husband kept just saying, what are you wearing? Is that new? I haven't smelled that on you yet. And just like, oh my God. So I love those. Those are funny. I've got other ones that it's the only perfume that my spouse doesn't get a headache from. Or something like, I had stopped wearing perfumes because my spouse would get headaches. So that has been really just welcoming. I was not expecting that. I was formulating for the person who was going to wear it, not for the spouse. So that has been great.
Amazing. So we're probably going to have to wrap it up now because we've talked for a while. So thank you so much for joining me. I really, really enjoy it. It's really nice because we've been like, I feel like I kind of know you because you've been in the group, but it's a bit weird on Facebook where we're just kind of like in the chat and you can see profile pic, but it's in the chat. But I do feel like because you've been in the group so much, but it's so nice to speak to you face to face. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey, and I'm sure it's going to help so many people feel more confident to take the bull by the horns and just go for it.
Absolutely, just go for it. Thank you so much for being the kind of teacher that you are, for being so for your students. I genuinely feel that their success is your success. You do this because you love to do it.
I would be doing this anyway.
And it shows in the way
this anyway, just to myself in my own little world.
For sure.
Yeah, like, and it really, it makes me so happy to see success stories like yours, people actually taking the program and like doing something with it as well, you know. And so many people, you know, and me included, I have to say, I've bought courses before and not really done much with them, but you know, as I always say, it's all, you know, you're not going to become a perfumer by just watching some videos and reading some books and learning the theory, you know, because we can tend to intellectualize stuff so much. And then the more we intellectualize, the more in our own way we get, and the more in our own heads, and the less likely we are to actually do it. Absolutely. And so I'm always a big believer of just like I said to you, and I've said to many other people, just roll up your sleeves. Yeah. Make some accords. Don't worry about a finished perfume. Just get some accords done. Just like mess it up, get it wrong, but write it down. Make sure that the next time you know what not to do, and then you just improve and you improve and you improve. And you're a testament to that, because you did that. So thank you.
Thank you. And you know, I want to say something for the skepticals out there who are taking note of the time, because you asked me when did I sign up for your course, and I signed up. If I'm not mistaken, I signed up in 2018, and my perfume came out in 2021. But I gotta tell you, it took me that long, COVID in between, but we're not even gonna blame COVID. I have to say that the reason why I could have launched a lot earlier, but some of those modules, because I was dragging my feet, because I was so hesitant to jump into it, and just go do those accords, just mess it up. I know myself, so I know that in the back of my head was like, oh, I want to mix it, and I want to mix it perfectly the first time. And that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
And so many people just don't take that action because of that. Yes. And that's one of the reasons that I'm going to be doing this 6-week accelerator project round with this round. So it's a kind of like a bonus add-on to the main program, because what I realized actually is that, you know, the modules, like everything in there is in my opinion is necessary for your long-term study and long-term knowledge. However, and the Facebook group where you can ask those questions. However, sometimes I think that people get bogged down in the watching and the note taking and the learning. And one of my old business coaches used to say, oh yeah, you know, filling notebooks, it's like data for later. You know, you're never going to look at that again. You're just writing it down and making notes, and you're not going to do it. And so this 6-week accelerator project, I'm really going to be encouraging people from day one to get their hands dirty, mess it up. And just, it's a practical project. So fingers crossed, we'll get more people actually, you know, getting their hands on materials and actually making something. The aim is in 6 weeks for them to have something done.
For sure. I think it's going to be a great compliment, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Your program is really something to really internalize. I go back to it actually.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing with the modules. You know, you get, I mean, obviously you get lifetime access to all the content, and so it's big, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there, and you won't absorb it all the first time around. Like sometimes I even think, oh, did I put that in there? Oh, but I forgot I did that, you know, because there's so much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's necessary from beginning to end. It's an amazing resource to go back to, because you're absorbing different. You go more in depth. I love going back because it gives me a deeper sense of knowledge into what I already know. So I'm building onto what I already know. But I think this 6-week program that you're doing, it's the perfect complement. I gotta tell you, I'm super excited. I'm gonna do it.
Oh yeah, obviously everybody who's already in the program gets to do it as well. So it's going to be great. We're going to have some newbies who are just joining, and then we're going to have some alumni. Hopefully, lots of alumni as well. So yeah, that's going to be. I'm really looking forward to it. You know how I love doing live stuff. Really. To me, like doing something live rather than just like recording myself on video into the void, yeah, I find that I procrastinate on that quite a lot. So yeah, I'm super excited, and yeah, can't wait to see loads of people in there, and you included. And we will, yeah, we'll do it on Zoom, so we're all sort of in the room together, and we'll be able to, depending on, like, we'll see how many people join, but yeah, hopefully we can do it with people on camera, and we can just make it really, really interactive. So that's going to be fab. Okay, thank you so much, Helida, for joining us. And I will, after, when I put all of this together, I will put your link under the video as well, so people can go and find you on Instagram, follow you, and check out your fragrance. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm gonna be your lifelong student, because whatever you put out there, I want to take.
Oh, you know what? It is really nice. I have so many people like that. That's one of the things that I love about the group, is that the people who show up, who take action, who are in the group, who really utilize the Facebook group aspect of it, which is why, like, I always give it as the bonus, because that's where all the action happens, really. And, like, you know, you can take the course, you can watch the videos, but, and I did try and do it as a little bit of a standalone at a lower price point, where people just had the modules, but those people didn't really, like, succeed with it. They didn't really do the work, because I do think that you need the accountability from the calls, the Q&As, and also the other people in the group as well. We've got an amazing bunch of people in the Facebook group who've been doing this for a while, who help other people as well. It's such a lovely, friendly community that we've created, and that all comes from you guys. Like, everybody who's in the program dips in and helps out other people, especially as it's global. We've got so many people in such vastly different countries in the world. And I don't necessarily know all of the resources in a bunch of random countries, but there are people in there who do, because they've done the research. So that's all good. Okay, I have to wrap it up now. It's actually pitch black outside.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, thank you so much, Helida, and I will see you on the 6-week program that starts on the 10th of November. Okay. Thanks for watching, folks, and bye for now.